The Independence Day story is not over, and neither is Stargate, apparently. So Roland Emmerich, as you know, is directing Independence Day Resurgence.
Oh, I
which,
know.
by the way, is not being screened for critics beforehand.
They just released some, but yeah, they're not. But then some came out, and it's actually half and half. Some critics are like, it's dumb, but it's fun. So it's like, that's exactly what I want it to be, is dumb fun.
He's teaming up again with Dean Devlin to reboot Stargate, which you may also remember came out 2 years before, yes, BB, 2 years before Independence Day. And he had something interesting to say about what is being done for that movie. It's not going to be continued like Independence Day. It's going to be completely rebooted.
What?
But why? It's not a story that can take place 20 years later, so the only way to really tell that trilogy is to go back from the beginning and start the story all over again.
I mean, that's kind of BS, right?
I would like to remind folks that the original Independence Day came out in 1996, and the sequel is coming out in 2016, exactly 20 years later. And it works. Why wouldn't it work any better or worse?
Right, I was going to say, wouldn't an old Kurt Russell kind of be awesome to walk into the Stargate? And then he maybe now with like technology, like you'd see young Kurt Russell. Like there's a million creative ways you can make this work. Because what I was bummed with Stargate was, because I actually loved the movie. I loved when that movie came out, I saw it in theaters, and I was very excited. And it was a crowd pleaser. People were cheering and standing up. It was an early popcorn movie that I think people forget about. So and then the TV shows came out and sort of put it on death. But I always was sort of frustrated with that movie because I thought there was so much potential, because it's like you're going into this gate into a new place, and they always just went to the sand. It's like, couldn't we go somewhere even more creative or cool or places? So I'm totally on board with this idea of doing a bigger budget. I just hope they,
that's exactly
I hope they go
what
beyond
were
the sand.
Was because they were like, well, today we have technology that'll take us exactly where we want to go and do exactly what we're going to do. They also said something interesting. Devlin said, today studios tend to not think of movies as trilogies or sequels, but as cinematic universes. Would you like to see a Stargate cinematic universe?
I would see more than one Stargate. Do I need a cinematic universe? Because cinematic universe to me means then we're going to get the
more than 3.
Right. It means we're going to get the raw origin movie, and I don't need that. I'm good with that.
I feel like not everything needs to be a cinematic universe, but we are looking at things now like everything needs to be a cinematic universe. Universal monsters, you know.
You need a good premise. I think that one had it. It's just cool. It's like Back to the Future. I don't love the sequels, but I enjoy the sequels, and so I think if you have a good premise, a sci-fi one especially, like with good characters, of course I want to see them go on another adventure. So I think sequels maybe if they get the first one right, but I understand the dilemma here because they didn't have the rights. They wanted to do a sequel and a third one, is what I was reading this too, and they didn't have the rights. So they couldn't make it, and they lost the rights, and then it went to the TV show. And so I could sort of see as a filmmaker, like, I just want to start that over again. So it doesn't offend me like most remakes do, because it is the original people. But I think that they're kind of being silly, like, why not figure out a way to just do another one that subtly connects to the first one.
Connects to it, but it doesn't have to have all the same characters.
It doesn't need to have the TV in it at all. Like, let it just be that one first movie.
Well, I don't think it's going to have anything related to the TV because it was handled by different people, and they usually don't like other, people's input in their own creation. Roland Emmerich he's quite a busy slate ahead of him, but he also has lots of time to talk about other movies, including Marvel movies. When you look at my movies, it's always the regular Joe Schmo that's the unlikely hero. A lot of Marvel movies, they show people in funny suits running around. I don't like people in capes. I find it silly when someone dons a superhero suit and flies. I don't understand it. I grew up in Germany. That's probably why.
Yeah, because I don't consider Woody Harrelson getting stoned in a Winnebago driving through lava to be silly. He's not known for silly, right?
So this weekend, when we watch Independence Day Resurgence, a UFO the size of the Atlantic Ocean will crash into Earth, which is a grounded idea.
But see, I think that's mean, because Independence Day, yes, it's silly, but I'm talking more recent Roland Emmerich. Like 2012 is ridiculous. Those characters are completely silly and make no attempt not to be. Independence Day, I think it was a different era, but for him to say that these more grounded superheroes are silly is just him being uncreative.
I think there are kind of Joe Schmo, at least starting that way when we're looking at Marvel movies.
In a way?
He's still
doesn't have powers. He doesn't wear cape.
In the way that he's wealthy, but he has no powers.
Hawkeye, he's a Joe Schmo with just really cool
Ant-Man's a Joe Schmo with a device.
There you go.
For sure.
He gets a special suit.
He couldn't keep his job at Baskin-Robbins. I think that qualifies as a Joe Schmo.
Yeah, this was a dumb quote for him to release right before a big movie. Just
I
made people
don't
go,
know.
what? What are you
The
doing?
marketing for not the marketing, but the press tour before this is making me a little concerned.
Have you
but
seen
like
the
you
Jeff
said,
Goldblum meme resurgence? It's kind of dumb.
what is it?
They just recreated memes with Jeff Goldblum's face. It's so lazy.
That's
They
it?
just- yeah, it's like, oh, here are these popular memes, but Jeff Goldblum's in them.
Well, Jeff Goldblum is a highly
Sure, but you know you're
memeable
in
person, I
trouble when you're
guess.
resorting. Let's throw Jeff Goldblum in some memes.
Why not Brent Spiner, y'all? He's there
There was a cool. They did release a where has he been?
Uh-huh.
He's been in a coma.
this whole time.
Yeah, apparently. You
Okay.
can go see the ID4 clip.
Oh.
That's sort of like the scientists of that they're doing like history lessons, which is smart. But
Are there any other returning characters?
yeah, the president's back.
Mae
Whitmore's
got
back.
recast as the daughter.
Stephen Hiller has died. Will Smith. His son's there. Vivica Fox is back.
All
So I'm
right.
on board. I want to see this movie.
I'm probably still going to see it. I mean, I always have these discussions about certain movies where like, does it have issues? Well, I'm probably going to see it anyway. And I guess that's the bottom line is if you're going to see it, great. If not, that's your choice. All up to you, folks. So we are going to go into, we started talking about Stargate.
I
want
want to see Stargate too.
Yeah, it could be cool. There's a lot of potential, I think, in the idea of what Stargate is and where you can go. I did remember watching it when I was a little kid in the theaters with my dad, and it was probably inappropriate for how young I was, but I saw it and I remembered it forever, so thanks, Dad. Audience, would you like to watch a Stargate MCU? No, Cinematic Universe. I was thinking of Marvel.
SCU.
SCU. That sounds like
Stargate. SG.
Stargate, SUV, SD, SCU. Would you watch that? Let us know below in the comments, and please like and subscribe for more.